Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy, NerdModon, and welcome to a Battlefield 4 video, and today we're actually going to be opting into doing the 120 FOV challenge, which is to set my field of view at 120 degrees. Now, traditionally, when it comes down to playing games on PC, I feel like my field of view is usually set to 90, and I've also read a lot of people talk about how their traditional field of view setting is also around this particular mark. Normally, I'll read into seeing what other people's field of view settings are, and a lot of people sit somewhere between 80 and 100 degrees, so normally there isn't a whole lot of deviation there, just slight differences between 80 and 90 and 90 to 100. So now that we've kind of talked about where my field of view is traditionally set at, let's talk about what happens when you maximize it to 120 degrees. Is there a lot of deviation in terms of performance hits? Also, is there also a great benefit, or does it kind of hinder your overall performance? So let's start things off by talking a little bit about the performance. Now, of course, as you increase your field of view, you're also expanding the amount of objects that you are capable of seeing on screen. Now, as a result of this, of course, you're going to see a little bit of performance hit due to your system. Now, if you have a really good beefy system, you're not really going to notice a whole lot of frames per second decreasing in this particular area. However, on the opposite side of the spectrum, if your computer is a few years dated, or maybe you don't have the most up-to-date software and hardware inside of your computer, then you might notice some deviations when it comes to your overall frame rate. Now, these performance hits will ultimately depend on how old your graphics card is or what kind of system you're using. So, of course, there is some deviations to be had, but that's not to say that because your computer is a few years old, your deviations and your frame drops are going to be more significant than my own or somebody else's. Now, since that we've talked a little bit about the performance, let's talk a little bit about some of the benefits and some of the negative attributes that have been assigned to increasing your field of view to 120 on the horizontal side. Now, some of the benefits of having a 120 field of view is that it allows you to see different objects that would traditionally not be rendered on your screen if you had a lower field of view setting. Now, this is especially beneficial when it comes down to navigating across a particular part of the map. Of course, being able to see players in different areas that would normally be cut off by your screen due to limitations of a lower field of view setting can give you a very big benefit when it comes down to being able to acquire them, or at least being able to kind of get out of the way and take some cover so that you're not able to get killed as easily. Now, of course, with that said, you also have the perceived illusion that you're running faster than your character actually is. Now, I know this might sound bizarre to people that have never tried to increase their field of view beyond what their traditional value is, but if you increase your field of view so significantly to the maximum that a particular game holds, in many cases it'll give you the perception that you're running faster than other players. However, this could be no farther from the truth, considering that you're actually not running any faster than any other player as well as any other teammate. So, of course, this will give you the illusion that you're running faster than other players, but unfortunately it is not backed up by any scientific facts. So in that particular case, you guys might wonder, well, why does it look like I'm running faster, or why does it ultimately feel like my character is on absolute roids and sprinting around the map at Mach 1? Now, the primary reason for this occurring is because your camera angle is significantly pulled back from its original value. Since your camera angle is pulled back farther than it normally would be, this gives you again the illusion that you're running faster than you normally would. However, on the flip side of the coin, if you were to decrease your field of view all the way down to 64 degrees, you would notice that your character feels very limited and very slow. It feels like you're not moving anywhere near as fast as you previously were, as well as you also lose the ability to see players in your peripheral vision, considering that your vision has went from 120 degrees all the way down to 64 degrees. Now, some of you guys might wonder, well, how is this a challenge, or what makes this so difficult going from 90 degrees, which is my universal standard, all the way up to 120 degrees, which is the maximum for Battlefield 4? Now, of course, I'll be completely honest, this challenge really wasn't too difficult. I mean, it did open my eyes to different field of views that some players may use when it comes down to the Battlefield franchise, but it definitely did not make the game any more difficult than it normally is. Now, I did notice while trying to acquire targets at medium and long range that they are a lot smaller than they normally are, which makes them a lot more difficult to hit, especially while trying to use a particular weapon that does not have a magnified scope on it. Increasing my field of view even 30 degrees significantly made it a lot harder to acquire these targets at long range, considering that they were very difficult to hit, and I couldn't necessarily facilitate the ability to line up my scope directly on their face. While I may have been in the general vicinity of their character, my bullets were not necessarily always hitting the target, and as a due result, I was having to use a lot more ammo to kill a player that normally wouldn't require this much ammunition to kill in the first place. Now, of course, this issue could easily be supplemented with A, decreasing my field of view, or B, getting more used to using a high field of view. So of course, a lot of this kind of stuff comes down to using it in repetition. If I continually use 120 field of view, I will of course get used to it, and as a due result, it won't nearly be as difficult as it previously was. So of course, this is kind of something that you can relate back to riding a bike. The first time you tried riding a bike, it was very difficult. You didn't quite understand the fundamentals of it, but of course, as you kind of got more used to it, you became very acquainted with this device, and it's not really anything you think back upon. So of course, that same kind of logic and experience can also be implemented into using a high field of view counter when it comes down to the Battlefield franchise. Now, one of my favorite moments about this particular challenge is that it gives me the perception that I was running faster than other players, and we previously talked about how this is absolutely not the truth, but of course in my perception it felt like I was running faster than other players. Now, as a result of me feeling like I'm running faster than everybody else and that I can dodge their bullets, so to speak, I also became very aggressive when it came down to pushing objectives. I mean, I was absolutely hell-bent on pushing objectives and also getting really close to the opposition. Now, this type of aggressive mentality was very prevalent while I was playing. I mean, I was definitely noticing while I was playing that I was significantly more aggressive than I traditionally am. Now, of course, that's not to say that I don't normally push objectives, but I'm a lot more methodical about how I go about them. I take my time moving on to the objective. I like to secure the area and make sure players aren't going to be pushing up on it. However, all of the logic went out the window when it came down to recording and producing today's video, and I can quickly notice that my playstyle is significantly different with 120 field of view, while normally I'm not as this aggressive when it comes down to a 90 field of view. So when it really comes down to it, when it comes down to a mental standpoint, I can quickly notice that there are differences between my overall mentality when it comes down to gameplay when my field of view is decreased or increased from its original value. But anyway guys, I hope you found today's video insightful in one way or another, and I do recommend to any of you guys that play on the PC platform to give this a try and let me know if your guys' playstyle differed or maybe you guys were a lot more strategic than I am and what I explained. But anyway guys, this has been an MO, and I'm going to be signing out guys. Peace!